Hi guys, I'm excited today to have Chris Gialanella from LA Magazine and all the good stuff from LA and publications, and you guys definitely will know him once we get into conversation today. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm thrilled to have you on here today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dylan. It's a pleasure.
And he has known me now for basically my whole life. He went to college with my dad, so I'm really thrilled to have your perspective and have all of your wisdom shown with everyone on the podcast today. I think it'll be a really fun time.
All right, let's have some fun.
So I believe this is true. You tell me if I'm wrong. Your background includes an early start in politics and sales before moving into publishing. So how did those early experiences shape your approach to media and leadership today? And if you want to kind of give our viewers a little bit of an understanding of what you do day to day also.
Yeah, absolutely. So after college, I was a political science major. I worked on the Hill for a congressman, and then I tried to get a job with the administration at the time, and I had no luck. So I had to move back to New Jersey, get a job in the city. And I worked for this company. It was a media distribution company that printed press releases and videos and not printed videos, distributed videos. So I was in charge of like all the media lists. And then there was an opportunity to come out to LA. So I moved to LA with that company, worked there for about 6 years. And then I've always been sort of a people person. So sales was always something I always wanted to do. And I always felt like if you don't have your own company, sales is really the way to go, right? If you could earn as much money as you possibly can. So I literally walked up and down the street with the magazine, created relationships, sold advertising, and just built up my Rolodex and created a really cool career for myself. I've been in publishing for about 27 years now. So it's really all I know. So that's kind of how the whole thing started. So from politics to sales, it all kind of like came together.
Yeah, it seems like it all married into itself, which I love. And you made a great point that, your relationships, your Rolodex are really all you have in a business like sales. I completely resonate with that in real estate and everything that we do day to day. So I think for a lot of people, that's a key factor in what you do in such a big relationship type business. Um,
Absolutely.
and I want to kind of piggyback on what you said because you're from the Northeast. So how did you kind of make that jump to LA and get started over there? Because it could be really hard to pivot and move coast to coast.
Yeah, for me, it was great because when I was working in New York back in 1992 or 93, I was given an opportunity to either move to Chicago or Los Angeles. And I had never really been to Los Angeles, and I figured growing up on the East Coast, going to college in Wisconsin, it was time for some warm weather. And I think everybody always kind of wanted to live in LA, and even as a kid, watching all the TV shows, LA was just always like, wow, I want to be there one day. So I moved out and it was great because I had a job already. So I moved out from Manhattan, New York to Manhattan Beach, California, and just kind of got settled, made all new friends, created a whole life for myself. So I was one of those people who came here with a job. So it wasn't like I packed up my car with $25 in it and had to really struggle, even though it was a struggle at the time, but I still at least had a career, which was great.
Yeah, no, it's great that you took that leap of faith and it brought you to all these opportunities. And I think LA is such an amazing place, and I definitely agree that it's nice to get a shift in weather, especially being from the Northeast. I have experienced that the past 4 years, and I love it so much being in the South right now. So I'm gonna definitely
I
miss
think I think like when you're around nice weather, you're just automatically in a better mood.
it.
Like
100%.
you feel more motivated and you feel like you just want to like take on the world a little bit more. Sometimes when you're cold and rainy and snowy, you just want to lay on the couch all day. So it's kind of nice to live in this kind of environment where the weather is conducive to like a successful day.
Yes. And also, I mean, people talk about seasonal depression, but it's true. And also, the fact is, in the Northeast, it gets dark at 4 o'clock in, the winter time. So I
Right.
think it's a big factor, and it definitely contributes to motivation and getting out there and being social and building those relationships, like we said, and having a good time. And I think that's really all true. So completely agree on that one. So, as someone who's overseeing major magazines in LA, Orange County, and Pasadena, how do you balance showcasing iconic moments with telling everyday stories that matter to local communities? Because there must be a lot of them.
Oh yeah. I think the beauty of what we do is that obviously I'm in the media world and you always hear, oh, this magazine's closing or nobody reads print, but for us, we're so localized where it's great that we have a perspective from our advertisers that they know we could bring more people into their stores, more guests in their restaurants. Like we can create a lot more local content and local opportunities with businesses. So, LA is obviously a vast city. There's so many opportunities here from travel to shopping, dining, real estate, home design. There's everything here in LA. And it's also the entertainment capital of the world. So for us, like, it's great because, we do, print, we do digital, but really our big bread and butter is experiential, like events and bringing people together, bringing the magazine to life. So we do a lot of food events. We do a big women's event. We just had a women's luncheon with an actress from Your Friends and Neighbors, Olivia Munn. She
Really?
was our host. We had her on the cover, and then we invited different women to come. And then, then we sell sponsorship opportunities for the events from liquor to automotive. So again, bringing the magazine to life is what we do best. And then in Orange County is more, sort of a lifestyle kind of community. But Orange Coast Magazine's been around for 50 years. So, we cater everywhere from doctors to attorneys to also the best places to shop and dine and eat. So it's really like kind of like a suburb of LA, but a little bit different in the demographics. And then Pasadena as well is sort of like a lifestyle publication where we do a lot in that community as well. So there's just so much to do on the media side in all three areas. So my day to day is really, spending time with my team, seeing customers. I'm always invited to new places or, things like that. So, every day is different, Dylan. Like you never have the same day over and over. And I think that's what I kind of love about what I do, where one day I could be in Orange County at the Montage at a wine tasting event to, going to, a car race in Long Beach to, having an intimate dinner up in Malibu. So there's just so many different things to do. And I think it's great that I have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, you really have the dream job. I'm very jealous. It sounds incredible.
Well, we
Uh,
are hiring, Dylan, so we'll
don't
see.
don't tempt me. Seriously, I might my parents would kill me if I moved out there, but I honestly think I might want to. All those things are right up my alley. So call me. Uh, anyway, I completely agree. And also the fact of the matter is you have to be creative in this industry, I feel like, because media is so important, but also it changes every day. I think it's constantly evolving, especially in a world right now where we have everything kind of digitalized. Like you said, print is also still around, but in order to keep print alive, you have to be so creative. So that makes a lot of sense that you have to create those
No,
events
you're
and
right.
all that.
And like for us, like, it's almost like every sales call is like a first date. You have to figure out if it makes sense to do business. And you always have to be thinking about like, what could we do as an organization to grow their business? Because if their business doesn't grow, they're not going to invest their marketing dollars in what we're doing. So our team is always on the move on. Like yesterday, we had a meeting with a very high profile woman in Century City, and she wants to get involved in some events with us. So we created a really cool opportunity for her to showcase what she does, where she could do a pop-up experience at our event, things like that. So we're always thinking about ways to make sure these businesses are constantly growing and
Right.
thriving.
Yeah, and it needs to match, your side and the other side. They need to kind of
Hmm.
come together and
Yeah.
make sense in a business mindset in a way. Which I kind of agree with on our end as real estate agents. We need to kind of come together and connect with our clients because if they don't have the same vision with us, then it's not going to align. It's not going to work. And I kind of see that on both sides of business.
Yeah. And real estate is a huge opportunity for us. Obviously, we work with a lot of real estate agents, and we're always putting together different packages, whether they want to brand listings or, bringing a photographer to an open house and featuring that on our website, or doing a photo shoot at like a beautiful, there's a home in Bel Air. It's a $38 million home. We're talking to them right now about doing a big beauty event there and then shooting our cover star. So they get the opportunity of getting people in the door through an event. And then we also cover it in the magazine. So there's so many ways that we work with real estate that makes perfect sense for what our goals are.
Yeah, that's brilliant. They get dual publicity for that reason and for homes that it
Absolutely.
needs it and that they need that credibility, they need that attention, and that's what you guys are providing, and that service is incredible. So, it's really great. So the publishing world has really, evolved. Your writing and editorial work covers everything from lifestyle guides to major cultural events. So how do you decide what stories are worth amplifying in general? Because there could be a lot, as we said earlier.
So we have an outline. So all of our Orange County and LA were monthly. And by the way, LA Magazine's been around for 65 years, which is really, really telling because we started on Rodeo Drive. Our original publisher was Jeff Miller, and he created this magazine really for shopping and dining in sort of the Beverly Hills area. So it's built up all these years. So we are a monthly, which is great, meaning the content is fresh every month. So we have editorial calendars. Like, for example, in January, we do best new restaurants in LA. We do Women's Month in March. We do Pride in June. We do Men's in November. So we kind of know what the themes are. We do Best of LA in August. So we know what those themes are. And then we create what content makes the most sense for what we're doing. And then also, LA Magazine is also a news source. So people come to us our website, lamag.com, for national news, local news, politics, sports, what's happening in the city, what's happening in the government. So we're really an interesting phenomenon because people come to us really because they trust what our point of view is and what we're saying. So it's really important, that we make sure our writers are doing a great job, which they do, and our content is fresh, pertinent, and actually, makes sense for what we're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
having that team and having that support behind you is so important. So, how do you build that team surrounding you to having writers, editors, etc., and all of that above?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always like the company you keep, and it really does take a village. So, we have a writer named Chris Nichols who's been with the magazine for about 30 years. He's a well-respected historian editor. So he writes a lot of really cool history of LA and things that have happened in the past, which we love. Then we have like Michelle McPhee, who does a lot of politics. We actually have a gal in New York, Lauren Conlon, who also covers a lot of court cases. Then we have Jasmine Rosenberg, who is our editor, who really does mostly the covers and the dining and fashion and style, and Haley. So we're just really great, great people who really know and stay in their lane on what they want to do. And then in Orange County, we have Tina Borgata, who's our editor in chief, who does such a remarkable job with Chelsea and Ostic and Andrew and creative people. And we all kind of just work together really well. And I think this is an important thing too, Dylan. Like, obviously, when the pandemic hit, a lot of offices closed and people started working from home, and some people still work at home, but we actually work in an office. And I think it makes a huge difference where people can gather in one place and really, come together with ideas and, be in the same room. And I always feel like it's so important to be in the room where it happens. Like, Zooms are great, phone calls are great, but there's nothing quite like being in person with somebody. And I think it's a great way, as we talked about relationships, keeping relationships going is so smart when you're actually in the room where it happens. I'm a big proponent of that. And I think that that kind of builds to a lot of the success of our organizations because we are actually physically together and coming up with really cool ideas and strategies, in one place.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I am someone that does much better in the workplace, in person, at the office. I think it's easier to get
Yeah.
things done, be efficient, work with your team. And I think it's very valid that, people can also become a little bit lazy or a little bit, stagnant in their work if they just stay at home and not really go into the workplace. I think it's really hard to accomplish everything you want to, or even learn and grow as a person and build those relationships as well. So that point is really true. Getting in there, and when I heard the room where it happens, I was thinking of that song from
Hamilton.
Hamilton. I was like,
Yeah.
that sounds very familiar.
Yep.
So that was really fun.
It's true, you
Yeah.
know?
No,
And I always tell people, like, and it's funny, even with my sales team, you know, I always everyone needs to go out and see customers. And it's so important, like, because if you're not going to go into a restaurant or a store, how do you expect our readers to go in there? You know what I mean? So
right.
there's so many mom and pop businesses that just need people coming into their stores to thrive. So if the person from the magazine isn't showing up, you know, it doesn't make any sense, you know?
No. And I think it's just true all across the board. Um,
For sure.
so looking at the current media landscape, I'm sure you know this better than anyone out there. What trends in audience behavior or technology are you most excited about, and which ones concern you?
Well, obviously, AI concerns me in a way, but we also use AI not to write stories, but we use AI to create proposals. Or let's say I want to create a list of the top, 100 real estate agents in LA. AI is a great tool for that. If I want to find, I want to invite like 50 women who are attorneys in LA to an event. It's easy to use AI. So AI is actually a really great tool for us. And I think it's interesting because social media and influencers are also a big part of what we do. So when we put together packages for clients, we always include, videos and reels and things like that. And especially I think in the food space, it looks so much better on video when you see a chef cooking or you see people dining or see a really cool experience. So I think social media has actually been a big part of our community, and we add it to a lot of our different proposals, kind of this 360-degree approach with print, digital, social, and experiential, and PR too, because I think obviously public relations and publicists are really important part of our business too. But I think the concerning thing would be, is AI going to replace a magazine? Can you create a magazine on AI? But I also think there's something really, important about a journalist's point of view and a professional, food critic or movie critic or things like that. So I think it's important that we keep our momentum going and know that we're a medium that's always here to stay. Kind of like, you know, LPs are back, records are back, people are buying records. Magazines, I think if you have the right magazine, and we're lucky because we're local, people are still going to want to touch and feel a magazine. And also, when you're reading a magazine, you're not distracted. When you're on your phone, you may get a text, you might get a call, but when you're reading a magazine, you're fully encroached on what you're doing and reading a publication without any interruptions. And that's really what our goal is, for people to really spend time and enjoy the content in the magazine without being disrupted.
Absolutely. And I think you brought up a valid point. I think no one's going to want to lose that human touch or point of view when they're reading an article or hearing what the individual who's well respected in their industry has to say, because AI can't replace that. It's only going to really bring a negative effect to articles and almost to their validity. So I think that honestly, I'm in agreement with you that sounds like AI can be a helpful tool in certain areas, but still, in a way, you're 50% at least in there to get that human touch, human side point of view in there to that article or whatever you're writing about, which makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is similar to our business as well. We have something called Simple and other tools that in our brokerage that we utilize as real estate agents to help, move along our day and get things done to be productive. But you still need to have those interactions to be effective and actually interact with the humans that you're speaking with every day. So it's true. I want to talk about the LA fires for a second from 2025. 'Cause I think that's a big story, and I think that was a big touching point in your city last year, and I think it definitely must have affected many of the things we were working on, plus in general, a lot of happenings in the area. So in times of crisis like the 2025 fires, what is the role of a city magazine? Is it to inform, comfort, hold leaders accountable, or all the above?
I definitely all the above. And it was really interesting because the fires really came out of nowhere and nobody ever thought they would be as strong as they actually really were. And I think, it affected everybody in Los Angeles. The fires were there were fires all over the place, from the Eaton fire out in Altadena to pass it to Pacific Palisades. There were some in the valley. There was one in the Hollywood Hills. For there were all these different fires that came up. I think our role as the magazine, that like we stayed on top of it big time. And I even personally spent time with the fire department. I went to Fire Station 69 in the Palisades right after. And, I started doing my own content on Instagram because what was happening was so many people were reaching out worried that, my family was in jeopardy, but literally the fires were, not close to where I lived, but when you saw it on the news, it looked like the whole city was on fire. So
Yeah.
there was ash and there was things happening. So our role as a magazine is to make sure that, we had the best updated content, and we talked to a lot of different people on the ground, the people that were on the front line, and we really got a good take on what was happening. But it was pretty scary, and it definitely affected the city in so many ways. But it also brought people together, and I think it was kind of nice because LA is so sprawling, and everyone always thinks that, we don't have a cohesive community. But it was nice. Like when I went to the Fire Aid concert, they had a concert in two venues that were right across the street, and it was really great to see everybody coming together for that. And even in like the Rose Bowl, there were so many, sort of giving charity events happening. In LA Magazine, we actually did a retail store with donations. We had it open for the weekend, and we had families coming in and out, and even the wealthiest of people, Dylan, still needed a pair of shoes. And also people needed a place to go to talk about their story. I remember, I was hugging a school teacher. He was probably in his 80s, and he had been teaching his whole life. He lived in the Palisades. He bought his home in like the 50s, and that's all he had. So he was like, what am I going to do? So he just needed a shoulder to cry on. So it was really, in a good way, I think it brought people together, but also a lot of people lost a lot, and they're still struggling. It's not over by any means, and people are still in a hard place. So we're constantly doing things to help. We did a comedy night. LA Magazine is located downtown, and there's a restaurant there called Engine 28 in our building. So we utilized that restaurant to do different things. So we had about 10 comics, sold tickets, raised money for the Pasadena Fire Department. So it was in a way something good for us to give back to the community in that aspect.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I was going to ask you how things were today, and it sounds like people are still,
I
recovering.
mean, things are rebuilding, and in the Palisades there was a big shopping center that is, getting rebuilt, but the homes are, permits, we're still waiting on permits. And, a lot of my friends who lost a home are still, renting apartments on the west side. And, so people aren't really settled. Even the high school burned down, so all those kids were now at a Sears in Santa Monica that turned into a high school. So the high school is being rebuilt, but, it's going to take a little bit of time for things to ever get back to a place where it used to be.
Yeah. And the silver lining is that you all came together as a community, and that's a beautiful thing. And I don't think, you know, we end up having those opportunities at many times, but at least there is some sort of silver lining when it came to this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to ask about the editorial strategy shift though when it came to this event. Like what conversations were happening internally and how do you figure out the tone, coverage, and sensitivity because it is a sensitive topic
Yeah.
and you have to really shift gears when you're handling a story like this rather than a regular food article or
Yep.
talking with a real estate agent who's handling a $38 million listing. So where do you shift gears and how do you navigate that? Because it can be really tricky.
Yeah, we definitely shifted. And what we did was when the fires hit, we obviously, LA, there's so many great artists in town. So what we did was I talked to three different artists, Mr. Brainwash, Karen Swing, and Robert Vargas, who are well known. They've done murals all over the city. There's this well-respected artist. Garen lost his home in the Palisades. So we asked them to create different covers of LA Magazine from their heart and what they were feeling at the time. So all three covers were put on the cover of LA Magazine. and we actually, did different events around the artwork. And people purchased the covers as well, which is a really great way. But we definitely shifted, and we did great content. We told stories about what people have gone through. We literally went into the communities and interviewed the Angelinos themselves, and it was really telling. And my team was really we were all really proud of what we did. But when it comes to a tragedy like that, you definitely have to shift gears. And all the award shows were on hold. I mean, everything was pretty much put on hold. So it made perfect sense for us to kind of create these really unique covers. And then it's like LA, there's so much art and so much beauty here. So why not, showcase that on the covers of our magazines,
Yeah.
as opposed to a celebrity or this, that, and the other. So it made perfect sense.
Yeah, I love that accentuating all of those elements into the
Mhm.
magazine seems like
Yeah.
an amazing tribute to all the different people that are around there and to the community in general. So that's a great thing. And
Mm.
gonna shift gears a little bit because you did mention award shows for a second, and you're someone who covers a lot of them and has attended many of them, which again, very jealous of. Um, so you've interviewed celebrities and industry leaders, but what interviewer story challenged you the most, and what did you learn from it?
So, it's interesting because in our field, obviously there's so many aspects to what we do. And for some reason, I became like the red carpet guy for LA Magazine, right? Like I'm have the microphone out, I ask questions, and for me, it's always like, what is your LA story kind of thing. So I always have kind of fun with celebrities. I remember when I interviewed like Nicole Kidman, we were talking about like her favorite place to get a taco in LA. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so I
that's
always try to find really cool different types of things to ask rather than what are you wearing? What are you doing? So it's kind of like flying by the seat of your pants when it comes to some of these interviews. Um, I did have a moment where I was at the Golden Globes and I literally was Julia Roberts came up to me, I came up to her basically, and I just did not know what to say. And I just was kind of like at a loss for words. I just couldn't even speak or say anything.
yeah,
And that usually never happens to me, but it did in that moment. So that was sort of like an embarrassing moment. But usually I keep my composure and, they're just people, like Ryan Seacrest and, so many, Chris Jenner we've interviewed and Patricia Arquette and just really interesting people. But at the end of the day, they just have a story to tell. So it's also a part of our business model where we like to be center stage on a red carpet when it comes to the award season because people love to read about what's happening, with the Golden Globes and the Oscars and the Grammys and things like that. And it's actually a big part of our community. And I think it's important to celebrate that too because, LA, we lost a lot of filming and a lot of the studios and the writer's strike. And so there has been some hardship in the entertainment industry for us. So it's great when we can actually celebrate those moments.
right.
And I enjoy it too. I mean, I always have, even as a kid, always enjoyed like meeting a celebrity and doing things like that. So that stuff kind of stays with you. But at the end of the day, Dylan, they're just people.
Yeah, no, and that's something that has to stick with you if you're someone that's going to be interviewing them and being involved in this business. I think also that comes with time, probably adjusting to that, because I'm sure a lot of people out there will get starstruck, but the fact that you have that cool opportunity to meet all those different people,
Yeah, and also like we do one thing that I want to mention that's really important is we run these special advertorial sections in our magazine, like we do Women of Impact and Men of Merit, where people invest their marketing dollars to be featured in the magazine. So we treat them like they're a celebrity. We do a photo shoot. Sometimes we bring hair and makeup, and then we interview them at an event where they kind of can have their voice and they get the Instagram reel and they get that opportunity. And that's a big part of what we do because we also like, again, we just want everybody to have the same treatment, whether you're a celebrity or a business owner or a real estate agent. Like we treat everybody really the same. And it's a big part of what we do in marketing and advertising campaigns,
right.
um, in all sorts of categories.
Yeah, I think you have to stay neutral in this type of business, which makes sense. Otherwise,
Yep.
how is it gonna work when it comes to your regular Joe Schmoes out there, which are probably where majority of the business comes from when it comes to marketing dollars and some of the business that you're gonna be generating in
So true.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Chris, thank you so much today for taking the time to speak with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I loved
Yeah.
getting to know more about your business in LA. It's incredible. I need to get back out there as soon as I can.
Well, you're probably going to be selling a lot of real estate out here one day, Dylan, right? There's so
Absolutely, that's
much,
the
and a
goal.
lot of synergy between New York and LA.
Yeah, no,
So many.
Sirhan just opened up 5 offices out in California
See?
last week.
That's amazing.
So, it's gonna be really great to do some business.
Yeah, and we get the same. Obviously, there's so many restaurants in New York based that are in LA, and so many people move out here from LA. It's interesting because for a while, a lot of New Yorkers came out to LA, and then when the pandemic hit, a lot of people left LA. Now everyone's coming back to LA, so it's kind of funny to see, the transition of, what's happening in our city. But we're
Yeah.
also excited. We have the Olympics coming up, which is going to be huge.
Yeah,
We have a lot of fun
we're covering
plans
that as well.
happening there.
Amazing.
Yeah, we got our tickets. We have so many great things to look forward to here. So we'll get you out here soon, Dylan, for
Love
sure.
that. Definitely will. And thank you again for coming on today.
You got it.
And
Thanks so
talk
much.
soon.
You got it. Have a great day.
You too.